So tell us a little bit about this competition. What was the challenge? What was the process?
The National Stone, Sand, and Gravel Association, in association with SME, puts on a design competition every year where teams of up to 6 people get to design an aggregate mine from geologic data and environmental data and an aerial photo. So this year we had to design our mine in 21 days and prepare a written report for that.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about each of your roles. So we'll start with you, Garrett.
I was the team leader, so my role was to coordinate with the team and make sure that we had a plan for our work and that we worked the plan, and also ensure that we were complying with all the rules of the competition. For example, not having outside help during the design phase.
I was in charge of creating the geologic model as well as creating the ultimate pit and scheduling out all of the ore. One of the things that involved was creating drill hole representation of the stratigraph that they provided and coding that into the model.
I was responsible for environmental sustainability. My responsibilities included reclamation, wildlife and environmental conservation, and community relations.
I was the only one on the team with any experience in aggregates, so I focused a lot on production, a lot on the logistics of the site and making sure that it was feasible and that it was realistic, and again, a lot of production, a bit on operations and some fleet management stuff. I did a lot of work.
I provided support to Chris in creating the geologic block model, the ultimate pit, and scheduling out the ore. And I also worked on the economic feasibility, the economic analysis, calculating the MPV of the project.
I handled the fleet management and the haulage profiles. So basically they give me the numbers and I got it moved.
Okay, so what were some of the biggest challenges or obstacles with the project?
Definitely the time limit was a tough one. So in that first phase where we had 21 days, and we actually only had 35 hours per person over that 21 days. So we were really constrained by the amount we could work. So even if we wanted to do more, we couldn't under the rules of the competition. And that was a huge challenge. And once we got to phase 2, it was almost the opposite, where we had 2 days to work, and we could work as many hours as we could in those 2 days, but we only had 2 days, so we each put in about 16-hour days over those 2 days.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. Anything else that anyone wanted to mention about obstacles specific to your areas, or?
I'd say an obstacle was for everyone in the group to get their work done in a reasonable fashion, because I couldn't calculate the MPV of the project until we knew what our reserves were. So each person had a crucial part of the project, and if that person didn't do their part, then the other person wouldn't be able to do their part. So we just had to make sure that everyone did their work.
And I think another hard challenge for us was trying to get reliable data for cost analysis. So we weren't initially given cost mine. We were designing stuff from what we found on the internet. So when they gave us cost mine at the second phase, we had to change a lot of our stuff, because then we had cost mine, we had more accurate data. So that was kind of a big challenge just with the cost analysis.
I'm just curious real quick, did you notice a lot of differences?
In some things, so on my side, the fleet management, I got pretty close to the actual numbers. I think the biggest thing we saw changes in when we actually, on Sean's side, actually purchasing a lot of the processing equipment. I mean, you can't find aggregate processing on the internet. It's really hard. Now you can kind of get some fleet stuff on some machine trader sites to give a kind of a rough estimate, but not aggregate processing equipment.
Yeah, because one of the things we found out that we needed to do pretty early in the competition was upgrade the plant, and also at one point in phase 2 we wanted to completely relocate the existing plant into the pit for later on. And these numbers in phase 1, it was again just guessing with Google and assuming, just based on what we knew about aggregate plants, what goes into them and how much each of these equipment parts cost. And then even with cost mine, it was still really rough, and the numbers that we were originally coming up with were like 1/10 of what the actual cost was estimated to be by industry experts when we were allowed to ask them in phase 2. So it was just really hard without the ability to know this detailed information about aggregate plant equipment costs to be able to figure that out.
Where did you get support outside of just your core team, and when in the project was that allowed?
So at the start of the project, before the 21-day period, we were allowed to get any help we wanted. So we actually scheduled trainings with one of our sponsors, Hexagon Mining, and they were able to help us with a generic aggregate mine project because we didn't know any of the details of what we'd actually be doing. But they helped us model out a generic mine and mine site, and then we were able to refer back to that documentation during our 21-day period because that didn't count as outside help. Then afterward, to help us get to Minneapolis and fund that, Hexagon gave us some money as well as the Arizona Rock Products Association, and we were really appreciative of that too, just to help with our travel expenses because we did have to go all the way to Minneapolis.
I also want to mention that Granite Construction also gave us a tour of their aggregate facility south of Tucson. So just going to an aggregate mine gave us a very good background of what we would be doing during the project, because a lot of us students, we focus more on hard rock mining and copper mining. So a lot of us don't know the aggregate industry. So just getting that field trip, that tour of an aggregate facility gave us a lot of background.
Well, how'd you guys do?
That was really exciting. They only select the top 6 teams to go to Minneapolis, kind of the phase 2 competition. So our written report was one of the top 6 worldwide, and then after our PowerPoint presentation, we were selected as the second.
Okay, and tell me a little, how did that affect you personally?
Well, being in charge of the design itself, it gave me a lot of experience with mine site. One of the most difficult things that I had to encounter was actually creating a model that was representative of the actual operation, and they didn't provide us drill hole data. So we had to think outside of the box. Garrett and I created our own drill hole data, which we used to model the deposit, and then we were able to run interpolation, MSO pit, as well as scheduling for all of the ore based on what we had created in the drill hole data.
Personally, I feel it's a testament to our skills individually and our skills as a team. And we feel that we represented the university in a positive manner.
Yeah, it meant a lot for us too, because in the past, a lot of teams, like last year especially, there wasn't a lot of aggregates experience before. So the fact that we were able to actually model this mine pretty realistically and do really well, better than any U of A team had ever done, was something that we were all extremely proud about. For 3 of us this is our first time competing, and the other 3, this is the second time competing, when other schools, they have guys competing on the team for 4 years straight, just working every year so they get the same knowledge. So just with the limited amount of preparation and history that the school had, we were really impressed with how we did.
Yeah, personally for me, it was a great experience and an accomplishment, because for us 3, myself, Garrett, and Chris, this is our second time doing this competition/project. So getting the second place was a huge accomplishment, and to the University of Arizona and the mining and geological engineering department, because we kind of set the bar high to where the future students have to be at, because we will be mentoring the future teams so they have equal success to what we had as well.
I mean, me personally, I fully admit, I love that we got second place, but I still wanted first. But honestly, just getting to spend time with these guys, and when we accomplished the challenge together, and I tell people, teamwork really doesn't do it justice. It's really like a big family in this department, and just getting to spend time with these guys and get where we got it made it worthwhile.